Your choice reveals a pattern you repeat without noticing, a quiet way of protecting your heart when life touches an old wound. What looks small on the surface often carries a deeper truth underneath. And in this Jungian test, the image that pulls you first can show how your inner world tries to stay safe, even when safety begins to feel like distance. So take a breath and do not think too long. Pick one form of ice from 1 to 5 and let your first impression speak before your logic starts building a story around it. Stay with the one that reaches you first, even if you cannot explain why, because the part of you that chooses quickly is often the part that already knows where the pain is hiding. This Jung test is not here to judge you. It is here to gently show you the pattern beneath the pattern, the feeling beneath the mask, and the reason you may freeze what you most need to feel. By the end, I will connect your choice to one clear and practical step you can take today, something small but real, and only then will the deeper meaning fully land. Because sometimes understanding does not come at the moment of choosing. It comes when the symbol meets your real life, and you suddenly see that what you called coldness was protection, what you called control was fear, and what you called moving on was only uncried feeling waiting for warmth. Maybe that is why a symbol can matter more than a long explanation. The psyche speaks in images before it speaks in arguments, and the image you choose can point to the hidden habit that keeps your feelings on pause. You may call it being careful, being mature, being over it, or simply being tired. Yet somewhere inside there is still a younger part of you waiting to be met with honesty and warmth. Listen to the pull you feel, not because it is perfect, but because it is personal. When something in you reacts before your mind can organize it, that reaction often carries the map. And when we reach the end, you may discover that the answer is not about the ice at all, but about the place in you that learned to turn feeling into silence. And if that truth feels tender, that does not mean you are weak. It means something in you has been waiting for permission to thaw slowly, safely, and without shame. Stay close to your choice because it may be the first honest thing your deeper self has said to you in a long time. Trust the image that chose you first, because what touches you quickly often understands your pain in ways words cannot. If you chose option 1, this often happens when you feel something deeply, but almost instantly begin to organize it, explain it, and place it behind a wall of calm words before the feeling can fully touch you. Pay attention to this, because clear ice is not the absence of emotion. It is emotion held so still that it starts to look like control, and that is why this choice so often belongs to the part of you that learned to survive by understanding everything faster than you felt it. In simple Jungian terms, this is the inner analyst wearing the mask of strength, a light side that gives insight and language, and a shadow side that keeps pain translated instead of lived. Stay with me, because this is where people miss the truth. The gift in this pattern is real. You can read a room, name attention, and notice motives that others miss. But the hidden cost is that your heart may only be allowed to speak after your mind has already rewritten the scene. Maybe you grew up in a place where tears created more trouble than relief, or where being the reasonable one earned love, praise, or safety. So now a part of you steps forward with explanations every time your softer self is about to appear. In everyday life, this can look almost admirable. You are the one who can describe the problem, hold everyone together, and speak with precision. Yet later, alone, you feel strangely far from your own body, as if the event became a concept before it became an experience. You replay the conversation perfectly. You understand each motive. You even know what you should feel, but the tears do not come. The anger stays abstract, and the grief waits outside the room like a guest you keep promising to let in later. Pay attention to this part because the shadow here is subtle. It says, I am being mature, I am being clear, I am above the mess. But sometimes that polished calm is only fear wearing beautiful language. The light in this choice is honest intelligence, a rare ability to witness complexity without collapsing. And that matters, so do not reject this part of yourself. Just notice when it becomes a shield instead of a bridge. A woman can leave a relationship, speak about the incompatibility with perfect insight, explain the family pattern behind it, and still find herself unable to admit that what hurts most is how deeply she wanted to be chosen. A man can sit with a friend after a loss, and offer brilliant perspective, almost generous perspective. Yet when he gets home, he cannot name the emptiness in his chest, so he opens a book, answers messages, or starts planning tomorrow. Stay with me here, because the turning point is small, and that is why people miss it. You do not need less understanding. You need one moment where understanding stops leading and feeling is allowed to arrive first. Today, put one hand on your chest and one on your stomach after a difficult moment. Then say out loud, "I know what happened, but what am I feeling right now?" And wait until you can answer with one plain feeling word before you explain anything. That one pause matters more than you think, because the moment you stop translating pain into neat language, your inner world begins to trust you differently, and once that trust returns, the frozen part no longer needs to hide behind being the smartest voice in the room. Pay attention to this last thread. The goal is not to become less thoughtful. The goal is to let thought serve truth instead of replacing it, because real strength is not the perfect sentence, it is the honest feeling that finally has room to breathe. Let this be the moment you stop performing calm and start offering yourself kindness, because what you feel needs presence, not polishing while it is here and alive. If you chose option 2, this usually appears when your heart wants closeness, but you move away before the feeling opens wide. Stay with me, because cracked ice is not simple coldness, it is desire and fear meeting on the same thin surface between us. In a Jung test, this image often belongs to someone who longs to be seen, yet braces for the split when love comes close again. The conflict is quiet, but intense. Part of you wants warmth and truth, and the other part whispers that truth will hurt if it lands. This is where the shadow enters, not as evil, but as protection disguised as distance and explained as independence. You may call it needing room or staying careful, yet the deeper pattern is that your feet step back while your soul leans in. Pay attention to the image itself. The ice is thin enough to reflect the sky, yet frail enough to break under one honest step. That is the inner conflict. You want to trust the moment, but you also scan it for danger, and the scan often wins. Then you wait for the perfect signal, the perfect voice, the perfect proof. And while you wait, the living moment starts to cool. This is why the shadow can look calm from the outside. You're not running. You're only delaying the step that matters today. A clear scene might look like this. Someone texts with real warmth, and instead of enjoying the softness, you answer late on purpose. Tell yourself you were busy, but you know you were buying distance before tenderness could ask anything of you, so you switched from desire to management in one breath. And that small move is where the mini-climax lives. Pay attention in that instant, because the outer action is small, but the inner retreat is huge, and most people miss the whole scene for real. And this is the light side too. You can read tension early, you can sense mixed signals, and you do not force closed doors open. The problem comes when wisdom becomes armor, and sensitivity becomes a reason to leave before anyone can leave you first. That is the small shock inside this option. You are not as calm as you seem. You are often guarding the place that still hopes for warmth, and that is why this choice carries such gentle sadness. The need is real, but the gate stays half closed for now. Stay with me here, because this is where the energy turns. The more you avoid the feeling, it grows heavier inside you over time, until one look, one silence, one delayed reply feels much larger than it is, and you tell yourself you need more time then. A daily scene can hold the whole pattern. Someone you like invites you out, and instead of saying yes or no, you let it drift by. You say you will answer later, but what you are really doing is buying a numbness before the answer exposes your hope again. And this is the twist. The more you rehearse safety, the less real the scene feels, so the fear grows and calls itself caution. Pay attention now, because the mini-climax is this. If you keep guarding yourself from the crack, you never learn your real strength. That is why this option is not weak at all. It is sensitive, alert, and deeply human, but it needs a new experience of staying on the line, instead of stepping back the second something feels meaningful. So here is the action, and make it concrete today. Today, sit with one unanswered message. Invite or talk for 12 quiet minutes and do not decide anything at first. Simply notice what you are afraid the answer will mean. Notice the urge to delay, explain, or vanish. And write a true sentence now to yourself saying, "I want connection, and I'm afraid of what it may want from me." Then breathe and stay until the minutes end, because the new lesson is not that fear disappears, it is that you can feel the crack and still remain here for your own life. If you chose 3, this often begins when making a clear choice feels heavier than carrying quiet confusion, because deep down, a decision would force a feeling to become real, and that is what you have been postponing. In a Jung test, this image belongs to the person whose pattern is gentle delay, a polished persona that looks patient, sensible and composed, while avoidance quietly runs the room from underneath. You may seem easygoing at work or steady in love, yet inside there is a small private bargain that says not now, not yet later will be safer, and later becomes the place where truth goes to sleep. Stay with this, because the symbol is not dramatic. Frosted ice hides what is there without destroying it, and that is your emotional cause. You feel more secure when feeling remains blurred. Here is the part people miss. Your light is real. You can wait, think, plan, and keep a promise alive longer than most, but the shadow turns patience into postponement until your own life starts happening somewhere else. Here's an unexpected twist. The persona that delays often looks responsible, not fearful, so even you may believe your reasons because they sound mature, measured, and almost noble. But watch the scene in real life. Someone asks for your answer on a project, a date, a move, or a difficult conversation, and instead of deciding, you improve the plan, refine the wording, adjust the timing. Nothing collapses on the outside, and that is exactly why the pattern survives. The world still sees competence while your deeper wish waits in the hallway like a guest. No one lets in. A woman says she needs 1 more week before accepting a good job because she wants to be sure. Yet the truth is that saying yes would also mean leaving an old identity behind and grieving it. A man keeps promising his partner he will decide about the trip soon, but each evening he opens new tabs, compares routes and closes the conversation with maybe tomorrow, because tomorrow feels softer than truth. See what happens next. Because the turning point is not giant courage, it is one clean decision made before your fear has time to decorate delay and call it wisdom. This is the mini-climax of your story. The door is rarely locked. It is only held closed by the part of you that thinks choosing will remove your safety, when in truth, choosing may return your energy. Today, choose one small commitment you have delayed. Set a timer for 15 minutes. Decide yes, no, or not now by the end, and if your answer is yes, send the message, book the task, or place it on your calendar before the timer ends. Do not negotiate with the old pattern during those minutes. Do not improve the choice. Do not gather fresh evidence. Let the commitment stand long enough for your nervous heart to learn that movement does not equal danger. The deeper lesson is beautiful. Your future does not open when every feeling is settled. It opens when your honest self keeps a word, even while uncertainty is still breathing beside it. And that is why option 3 is not simply about delay. It is about the tender place where desire asks for action, and fear answers with maybe until maybe becomes a lifestyle instead of a pause. When you finally make a clean choice, the world may not transform in a flash, yet something inside you stops leaking power, and the frozen fog around your next step begins to thin because commitment gives shape to feeling. So if this option found you, do not shame the part that waits. Understand it, then lead it. The persona wants certainty. The shadow fears loss. But your life asks for participation, and participation always begins with one finished act. Choose with your hands, not only your thoughts, and see yourself arrive fully. If you chose 4, this often appears when control feels safer than surrender, because losing your grip feels like losing something vital. You sense that if you soften even a little, life may take more than you are ready to give, and that fear makes firmness feel like love for yourself. In simple Jungian language, your shadow is not cruelty but defended tenderness. The limitation is that strength becomes your costume and change begins to feel like theft. You may tell yourself you are only being careful, yet you repeat this pattern more quietly and more often than you realize. The light in this choice is discipline. You can hold a line, keep a promise, survive a hard season, and protect what matters. But the shadow whispers that if you stop bracing, you will be overtaken by grief, need, desire, or change, and that whisper can rule an entire life. Think of someone who loves you asking a simple question about the future. They ask whether you are in or out, whether you want the trip, the move, the talk, the deeper step, and instead of answering, you tighten. Your voice gets cool, your body stays still, and you start managing the room instead of meeting the moment. Maybe the choice is smaller, but the pattern is the same. A friend asks why you seem distant, and you answer with facts about work, traffic, timing, and pressure, while the real truth sits just below your throat, saying that closeness scares you because once you care, you can lose. This is the hidden ache of option 4. You do not only fear losing control, you fear losing the self that control helped you build. That is why surrender looks dangerous to you in moments that other people might call ordinary. And you live this script in more scenes than you usually confess, even to yourself. Jung would say that the shadow resists change, because change threatens the arrangement that once kept pain contained. The limitation is not that you cannot adapt, it is that you often adapt outwardly, while inwardly refusing the one honest release that would let the next version of your life begin. And here is the turning point. What you guard so tightly may already be fading under the weight of your control. A relationship can cool not because love disappeared, but because your careful distance left no warm place for it to land. A career path can stall not because you lack talent, but because you keep saying maybe when your life is asking for a clean answer. You may think your problem is uncertainty, but often it is grief in disguise. Saying yes risks change, saying no risks regret. So you hold the line between them and call that line safety, even while it drains your energy. Today, choose one live question you have been managing instead of answering, and give yourself 15 quiet minutes to decide. If the answer is yes, say yes in a message before the minutes end. If the answer is no, say no with kindness before the minutes end. Do not edit your tone into fog. Do not add maybe. Let your mouth and hands learn the relief of a clear boundary. This matters because every true yes and every true no melts a little of the old ice. Each clear answer tells your nervous system that change can be survived without hiding behind control. The fear may still speak, but it no longer gets the final vote. You are not being asked to become soft with everyone or to drop every shield at once. You are only being asked to tell the truth in one place where your life has been waiting. That single answer can become a door. And once you walk through it, you may discover that what you feared losing was never safety at all. It was only the habit of holding on. It was the old promise that control could save you from change while quietly keeping you from your own life entirely. If you chose 5, this often appears when your life is already pressing toward change, and some deep part of you knows the old shape can no longer hold who you are becoming. Pay attention, because this is not only about escape or numbness, but about momentum, the first crack in a pattern that has kept your energy locked in place. You may think you picked the most distant image, yet this choice often belongs to the part of the psyche that is finally tired of circling the same fear. Here the frozen self does not want to hide forever. It wants to break the mold and move, even if movement means losing an old excuse. In simple Jungian terms, this is the edge of individuation, the moment when courage begins to gather the scattered parts and say we go forward together now. Individuation sounds grand, yet it is a simple truth. You stop living as a mask for old fear and start letting your whole self enter the room. Stay with this because the shadow in option 5 is not weakness but hesitation dressed as caution. You tell yourself that more time will bring clarity, while another day passes and the same closed door remains between who you are and who you could be. That is why this choice carries momentum, because somewhere inside you are more ready than you admit, and the next move is waiting for your consent. Think of the person who keeps delaying one honest conversation at home, not because the truth is unclear, but because once spoken, it will change the air. They keep washing dishes, checking mail, opening tabs, straightening books, doing small useful things, while the real sentence beats like a pulse under the skin. Or picture someone who says tomorrow is the day they will change the morning routine, wake early, walk outside, and begin again. But tomorrow comes, and the old sequence returns. Phone, bed, coffee, rush, and the self that wanted more momentum is pushed to the side once more. This is the inner drama of option 5. The wish to transform is real, yet the old mold keeps offering familiar safety. The small climax comes when you see that the fear is no longer protecting your life, it is delaying it. And once that truth lands, a different tone enters the room. Not panic, not fantasy, but clean movement. You suddenly know that one step matters more than another week of private debate. The courage here is quiet, not loud, because real change rarely begins with a speech. It begins with a hand reaching for the thing it has delayed. That is why this option can feel sharp. Like an ice shard catching light, it knows the break is near. Not disaster, not collapse, but a break in repetition, and from that break a current. If you have been avoiding a choice about work, a move, a routine, or a person, this pattern asks for one irreversible act. Not a promise to yourself that dissolves by night, but a step that exists in the world after you take it. Today, choose one decision you have kept in suspense. Set a timer for 15 minutes, and before it ends, do one small thing that cannot be undone. Send the message, book the visit, cancel the plan, sign the form. Throw away the object that keeps the old story alive. Do not wait until you feel fearless. Movement is what begins to melt the fear. And when you act, something inside you stops asking for permission and starts trusting your own direction. That is the quiet power of individuation, not becoming someone else, but becoming whole enough to move without splitting from yourself. So if you chose 5, let this be the moment you stop mistaking stillness for safety, because the mold is already cracking, and the next version of you is not waiting for perfect certainty, only for one honest act that proves you are ready to move and claim your life without delay now. What all 5 choices share is not weakness, but a pattern of avoidance, a repetition that begins as protection and slowly turns into a hidden fear of fully meeting life. Each image of ice pointed to a different way the psyche keeps feeling on hold through analysis, delay, hardness, distance, or the quiet habit of leaving yourself before the moment can reach you. In simple Jungian language, the symbol matters because the mind often hides in stories while the soul speaks first in images, and those images reveal the compromise between the persona and the shadow. The persona tries to look composed, efficient, mature, or above the mess, while the shadow carries the grief, anger, longing, or tenderness that never found a safe place to move. That is why avoidance can feel so reasonable. It borrows the voice of wisdom, even when it is only fear asking for more time, more distance, or one more perfect explanation. And yet the deeper truth is hopeful, because repetition is not destiny. It is only an old adaptation repeating its lesson until you become conscious enough to answer it differently. Integration begins the moment you stop asking which part of you should win and start asking how the frightened part, the strong part, and the longing part can finally belong to the same life. That is the heart of individuation in plain language, not becoming perfect, but becoming whole enough to remain present when old fear tells you to freeze, split, delay, or disappear. Maybe you saw yourself in the person who keeps delaying a decision at work because saying yes would demand change, and saying no would end a fantasy that still feels safer than reality. Maybe you saw it in the avoided conversation at home, the one you keep rehearsing while washing dishes, driving to work, or staring at your phone long after the screen has gone dark. Maybe you recognize the routine that no longer fits you, the morning sequence, the evening numbness, the careful performance of being fine while something vivid inside you keeps asking for a different way. Whatever scene found you, the message is the same. The fear is usually hidden beneath repetition, and the repetition survives because it once helped you endure something you did not yet know how to feel. Now the symbol can change its meaning, because what once represented freezing can begin to represent awareness, and awareness is the first warmth that loosens the old structure. You are not being asked to heal everything at once, only to notice where you leave yourself and to return one breath sooner than before. You are not being asked to erase fear, only to stop letting fear choose your rhythm, your words, your silence, and your future. That is why this ending is also a beginning, because the real test starts after this video when you meet the next familiar moment and choose presence instead of the old escape. Today, choose one place where you usually avoid feeling and stay there for 10 quiet minutes without reaching for explanation, distraction, or delay. Then write one honest sentence about what you know and one honest sentence about what you feel. Then keep the promise for one full day, because action teaches the nervous heart what thought alone never can. that a feeling can be endured, a boundary can be spoken, and a new pattern can survive its first hour. Completion does not mean the story is over. It means the hidden rule has been seen, and once a rule is seen, it can be challenged, softened, and replaced by a more living way of being with yourself and others. And when you notice yourself repeating the old move, pause, return, and remember that integration grows through small, honest moments lived in full daily. If this reached something true in you, do not leave in silence. Leave your number in the comments. Please enter your name because I want to know who is here and what choice spoke for the part of you that needed this most. Like this if some quiet place inside you felt seen and understood for a second. Subscribe if you want more of these moments where your inner world is met with gentleness instead of noise. Watch the next test on your screen right now. Do not let the feeling close the moment this video ends, because something honest has already started moving in you. Stay with that movement a little longer and give it one more chance to speak before the old walls come back. Maybe your choice was not random at all, and maybe the part of you that answered quickly has been waiting to be heard. That is why I'm asking you not only to watch, but to answer, to leave a trace of yourself here while the insight is still warm. Sometimes the smallest response is the first real break in a pattern that has followed you for years. A number can become a confession, a name can become a beginning, and one simple click can become proof that you are ready to keep going. If something in you softened during this test, protect that softness for one more minute and follow it into the next step. You do not need to explain yourself perfectly right now. You only need to remain close to what felt true. The old habit is always to move on too fast, to shake off the feeling, to call it small and to return to the usual noise. But maybe tonight is different, and maybe this is the moment when you finally choose to stay present with your own heart. Your comment can be small and simple, but it can also be the first sign that you are done hiding from what moved in you. Let this ending feel like the opening of a quieter and more honest conversation between you and yourself. You have already looked inward for a few minutes, and that matters more than you think because real change often begins with a small act of staying. So before you go, leave what is true, let your name stand beside your number, and carry this feeling forward instead of shutting it down. There is no need to force anything grand, only honor the moment that found you and answer it while it is still alive. You may never know how much can change from one honest response, but you will feel the difference when you stop leaving yourself behind. Stay here for one breath longer and let the next step meet you before the old silence returns tonight.